Yeah, look, I think we'll just jump straight into it because I think there could be quite a bit of discussion, and I do certainly have a hard stop in 28 minutes. Um, and so the purpose of this call originally was to actually start to kind of design the front end of the prompt editor. However, there's been a lot of discussions, and I'm hoping Susie will join shortly. There's been a lot of discussions about what we need out of a prompting editor, or do we even need one, and etc. So what I'm going to do is to kind of just boot the conversation, is to start with the epic. I'm going to share my screen real quick. So this is an epic that was it's had quite a few iterations between work between myself and Susie. So the most basic concept was, at the moment we have our the limited number of prompts that we have for our geo features are literally hard coded into the Rails monolith as YAML. And so the idea was to have a way to start hi Susie, to have a way to start extracting that, so making it a bit more dynamic, extract that to some type of editor, and then allow initially us to iterate on those prompts. And then the conversation has very quickly gone into, well, maybe users might want to have prompts, who might want to have versioning. And then I understand there's a whole lot of stuff going on with agents, and there's a prompt library somewhere as well. So with all that kind of introduction, I kind of and so we've Susie and I have done quite a bit of analysis on what a prompt editor might look like. But I think all the parties on this call have probably got strong opinions, and so I'm just going to kind of open the floor. If anyone thinks what we should be doing with a prompt editor, do we need one? Where should it live?
Yeah, I already made some notes down, a couple of bullets. But to me, like, the idea of editing prompts sounds synonymous with like custom AI agents. And I'm wondering if it makes sense for end users to customize the prompts for like built-in agents like Duo, or if like it makes more sense for them to just create separate agents, right? Maybe somebody can elaborate on what the use cases are. I think maybe the story is slightly different for something like code suggestions, perhaps. But for chat agents, I would think it would make more sense for the users to build custom chat agents that meet a particular use case, rather than trying to like wrangle the global Duo chat to do what they want to do.
Yeah, I think there's some blurriness there in terms of like the better path. I think that part of the prompting would be to like enable a chat with RAG for like local use. And again, that could be an AI agent, because that's the other question, right? Like, if I understand it, AI agents use the AI agents are all using system prompts.
Yeah, I mean, right? Like we're sort of coordinating with the other teams on the RAG implementation, but we certainly hope to bring all those same capabilities over to AI agents. Exactly how that happens is kind of an open question, but like one thought that we've had is like I don't know. You go first, because I can go on a rant.
Well, I guess like part of it's the same kind of conversation we were having earlier, right? Like, what is for like the GitLab feature? So like right now GitLab RAG, such as it is like on the sort of like GitLab repositories. But if users want to say like point to their own code specifically, that they could customize for that, things like that. Like, it's pretty, I mean, honestly, we're at this very open space, because I also have some trepidation about letting people customize prompts and like messing it up, and then Duo chat isn't functioning very well, things like that. And I think that that's a bit harder to control, just because of the free form structure of prompts, or relatively free form. But yeah, the idea is that we would allow prompt editing in some modular capacity to further refine what Duo chat is returning to them within the GitLab environment.
Yeah, I mean, when you start to talk about RAG, I think you inevitably brush up against a need for like chaining, right? Like, and you sort of like almost need like full blown like like a full-blown programmatic interface to integrate with like whatever APIs you're looking for, right? Because RAG isn't like a thing, right? RAG means different things to different people, and it means calling different APIs in different contexts sometimes. So like your RAG could just be calling your Salesforce API, right? Like it doesn't necessarily imply that you're doing any sort of like semantic search against the database necessarily. So we've had an idea to like at least on the AI agent side, we've been talking to the Verify team who's working on Step Runner, because we think it would be cool if folks could author like CI step components that could be evaluated in the context of agents, right? That way, like the same way that you would customize runner behavior with these reusable components, you could write arbitrary code or somewhat arbitrary code to interface with whatever APIs you want to, the agent could leverage those components on the back end. Basically, like you ask the agent a question and it would like generate something analogous to like step runner configuration to execute a pipeline of steps to generate a response or to retrieve data to generate a response. That's looking pretty far ahead. But in the short term, like everything we're doing around AI agents is basically custom prompt management, right? Just minus the RAG piece. I think like if you want to be able to create agents that interface with custom backends and stuff, or retrieve data of any kind, like that's a whole can of worms that we're probably not gonna totally unpack in this discussion. But I wanted to get ahead of the prompt editor thing because that part definitely seems to have almost 100% overlap with what we're doing.
I think.
Sorry, everyone, can I just suggest let's use our hands, and I'll kind of call the next person. So who would like to go next? Eduardo, go ahead.
I was 2 seconds faster than Shekar on the. So, Laura, 2 things that were in. I shared over here in the link because I don't have access to the document. But
sorry about that.
A while ago, like many months ago, 10 months ago, I added an issue for start exploring prompt management lifecycle into GitLab as a GitLab feature in itself, that users could pull these prompts and use across their own application. Like they are building their own functionality, and they already took a look at what could I say, versioning and ideas for versioning, and bring in valid evaluation eventually as well. So all that kind of stuff. That originally my first thought when I heard AI agents was that it would be that prompt management, adding, creating, versioning, changing, updating, and eventually it's a little bit more than that, but prompt management is at the core of what AI agents is doing. And for the foreseeable, on the short term, like Marshall said, it's gonna be the focus of what we're doing, because it's the low-hanging fruit of what we're doing. I linked the merge request, which is the discussion on AI framework side about adding a blueprint by Gosha, that we were talking about adding a prompt library, and I suggested them to hold on a bit until AI agents was moving forward more, so that they could use the prompt management that we are building on AI agents for the application of AI framework. That was before the meetup in Berlin, and we haven't had the time to move that blueprint forward. I didn't have time to move that blueprint forward, but those were discussions that were happening before. And yeah, just a little bit of contextual history on this. Currently, AI agents support prompt versioning, but only one version. This is
Oh.
what we've built. Like
That's a good start.
yeah, like we simplified. You can update your version, your prompt. We don't store previous versions for now, but we can do this. This is already predicted as an evolution of what we're building so far.
Thanks, Eduardo. Sheka, you lost by a microsecond to Eduardo.
Did you have a follow-up to that, Sean? I saw your hand raised. So if you
No,
want
I'm
to...
after you. I'm after you.
Okay. So the way I see this is like there's 3 different levels of maturity of products that we're talking about here, right? The most mature is AI agents, where we're talking about having version prompts plus prompt management, plus having, along with prompts, having the ability to do RAG and tools, right? So I see like the AI agents is the most sort of mature capability that we would build around this. The second level is just having a prompt registry where we do management of prompts, that is having versions of prompts, different types of prompts, supporting different models, being able to test those prompts against different models, doing evals against different models.
Sorry, Sheka, 4 Duo features only? Is that what you're referring to, or for the
No,
agents
no,
in
for
general?
anything. Yeah, for anything. Like we should use that internally. The way I see this is something that should be delivered by the package team as a package feature saying, hey, this is a prompt registry, just like we have container registry and everything else. We have a prompt registry, you can manage versions, you can test these prompts against different LLMs. You can test these prompts against different versions and names and stuff like that. And like I see that as a separate product. And then the least level, and I think that's what you care about at the moment the most, is supporting different types of prompts for custom models, right? And I think just going back to the previous one, though, I think we as DO Chat would be an internal consumer of the prompt registry and AI agents, right? I think DO Chat is just AI agents with some of our special prompts in the prompt registry pre-populated, and then that being utilized in the IDEs and the UI, right? And for custom models, like that's the smallest use case, which is we want to be able to customize. We want to prompt in the prompt registry for each of the different LLMs that we support. So if we support Llama 2, for example, we want to prompt there for the purposes of chat or for the purposes of code suggestions, and just be able to use that when the customer requests to use a particular model, right? And so I think the 3 different products that we're talking about, which have a great overlap clearly, right?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Sean. Forgot about the rule.
So absolutely, Sheko. And in fact, the original impetus for this was the least use case that you mentioned, which is purely from a custom models perspective. If we're going to bring any more models, well, they have to have their own prompts, whether they're versioned or not. And so at the moment, that would be involving, again, baking more prompts, if we allow a user to select, for example, Llama or whatever, then once they've selected it, we have to have the appropriate prompt for it, which presumably we've validated ourselves, but at the moment it has to be baked into the code. So this was to try and bring that up to the minimal level. But I think we should also think of the runway for everything else. I think who was next? Was it Eduardo or Marshall?
Go ahead, Eduardo.
Yeah.
You muted.
Okay, I muted myself because I thought I was muted. That's classic mistake. I linked also another one with this is the LangChain prompt registry, or LangChain, and that's pretty much what I thought, like exactly what I thought it would become of AI agents. A repository where you have multiple prompts. You have like if you click on one, you have prompt templating with a button to try it. That prompt to the, like you have examples and so on and so forth. You go up, you can edit in Playground. You have the inputs and outputs. You can type in and test right away. You can select different providers. You can select different models to try this prompt on. It's very similar to what we're building on AI agents.
Yeah,
Was
if you
there-
don't mind me chime in while you're on this screen real quick, Eduardo. So like this, based on what Shakar was saying and what Eduardo is saying now, like to me, I actually don't know if I find like the prompt registry as a standalone feature like necessarily that useful. Because as soon as you dive into this screen, for example, right, the prompt is essentially meaningless when decoupled from provider configuration, right? So like to me, the screen that we're looking at now, this is what I see the agent configuration screen as looking like, right? And Eduardo and I have talked in the context of AI agents is like this entire set of configuration being what's versioned, right? Because if I like change the model or the LLM provider or the temperature settings or really any configuration whatsoever, I think that should be versioned configuration, because especially changing something as big as the model or the prompt, I think necessitates a new version. But yeah, I just wanted to pressure test what Shakar was saying. Like to me, those three separate iterations that he laid out are just increasingly sophisticated AI agents. But I don't know that there's I don't know if it makes sense to like decouple those into separate features. I think we can just have a very trimmed down AI agents that's basically just prompt management at the beginning and hard coded tools, and then we evolve that into like prompt management plus provider configuration plus like in the future being able to like not have hard coded tools or like configure those as part of the agent config as well.
Dennis, go ahead.
I think so. I haven't been involved in a lot of things that are discussed here, but from what I hear, I've been involved in the AI agents front end reviews and things, but there is an interesting point that has been raised now. So what we are discussing really looks like more sophisticated AI agents, right? But the main question now is that we are talking about iterations for AI agents. This means that they will extend in the future, some pretty distant future maybe, right? So the question of whether we need to look at the prompt management as a separate entity lies in whether we want this to be delivered faster or we don't really care about that. This is the main crux to me now, because if we see it as an evolution of AI agents, this means that it's going to be done sometime in the future. If we want to parallelize the things, then we need to work on this in parallel, very tightly coupled with AI agents probably, but it's really, but then the question becomes like, do we really want this to be a standalone feature or not? Like I don't have an answer to that, so I will leave this to you to discuss. But that's just the idea.
Go ahead, Marshall.
I was just going to say, if we think that if we think it makes sense to somehow parallelize this and make like prompt registry a separate feature, I'd like to know like how do you use those prompts, right? Like that's the part that's missing for me is like without an agent to interact with, right? Like what is prompt management?
Well, I can actually answer that because I think that I'm trying to find my raise hand. Sorry, I'm breaking my own rules. Because at the very basic level, kind of what kind of to circle back, what kicked this off was I'm just going to go to the epic again. If we wanted to add a new model for one of the geo features, for example, here's code suggestions, code completion, and here's the actual prompts directly in baked into the Ruby code. For I assume which one is it? Is it Vertex that we're using for this? I'm not sure, but in any case, we need a new model. we have to now create somewhere. So either we create, the simplest version would be to have different, subfolders or something with examples in them. But then the next level up would be to, well, the editor could even look something like this because it's YAML anyway. But I'm just wondering if we should start with some, as Dennis has pointed out, start with the most basic iteration, but then have a roadmap towards all these other features, and kind of do those two things in unison. Sheka?
Yeah, so +1 for the iteration. I definitely think we need to work in, like Dennis mentioned, we need to do things in parallel. So we need to make some incremental change now to support custom models. I think that will be needed immediately. But I like what Marshall's talking about in terms of without, like, the prompt registry that we're talking about is just a subgroup of AI agents that kind of simplifies it if you look at that. Because actually AI agents has two parts, right? The authoring part and then the actual deployment, right? And I think the authoring part comes very close to what you're talking about in terms of prompt registry plus agent to actually test out your agent, right? And it kind of is the prompt registry. So yeah, that's an app for me actually. That does make a lot of sense.
And
I think
validation's in there as well, right?
yeah, exactly. And I think the one thing that could be very powerful here is that if we add, and I'm just thinking of the internal use cases, that we can add evals as well, right? Like if people can, while building an agent, also, I don't know, upload eval somehow, like a Python code or a data set or something, and that would then give them corresponding like grade. That would be great, right? Because then we can compare different versions of prompts and stuff like that. So yeah, I think that does make sense. Like in the long term, like the way I see it is, DO chat just becomes another just another agent, right? Which is managed, right? And to manage the prompts for that, we just use the prompt registry, which will let us do like A/B testing and try out different prompts and versions and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I think that we're actually, sorry, I keep forgetting to do the hand thing, but
that's okay. That's okay. You can reply to that.
I think that, like, we're actually really close to being able to do this for Duo Chat specifically. The code completions is slightly more complex because there's some like dynamic examples that get thrown in there based on the language. But to my understanding, I was just looking at the code earlier, and I think that I think Duo is just the system prompt, right? And it's hard coded and doesn't really have any templating. So we could
templating.
There is templating.
Template. There is.
Yeah,
Okay.
by feature, isn't it?
There are
By
some
feature.
templatings by feature, but there is some formatting happening that you include, like in some places.
Examples, I think. But there are tools like that. That's one thing missing at the moment, right? There are tools being used, which could be hard coded, of course. Yeah.
At the moment, I think all the we don't. I mean, in theory, I think you could coerce an AI agent into using the prompts. I guess we don't template it in there, but yeah, we're using the same API endpoint that powers Duo Chat. So it wouldn't be hard to at least optionally expose that, like if we start to parameterize the prompts or something like that with some hard coded values.
Dennis, did you have a point? You had your hand up.
I had, but I just think that the more we talk about this, the more it looks like I think there is a value in starting this effort, like the prompt registry as a parallel effort. But it's inevitable that these two will come together, like they will be kind of the same thing at some point, and it's just a matter of like setting this expectation. But when it comes to the crux of this particular meeting we have today, like there has to be the editor for that thing. It's just a matter of what do we put in that editor, and we have to start somewhere. We have to start low and just see where it goes, and then merge things with AI agents, I guess.
Thanks, Dennis. Eduardo, I think you were next.
I would like to
Susie?
give first to Susie. She hasn't spoken.
Go ahead, Susie.
No, I think I just was kind of echoing what was just said by Dennis, but I think like I think the idea is like, how can we carve out like a space where everyone I mean, work in parallel is different, but like, how do we like create a roadmap where we can all contribute to a grand vision, but not be waiting on some other team to deliver something, so we can be unblocked, right? So like, what is the piece, for example, the custom models, and maybe it's implementing some basic editor, and AI agents contributes the agent for that, or the system prompt or align things. Like, I think that we just need to figure out a path that we can all add pieces into, so we're not getting blocked.
I wonder if we should start with the POC.
My suggestion here is to already build on top of AI agents and add APIs to fetch prompts only. So we are already adding editor to the AI agents. We have a prompt editor over there. We don't support prompt templating. So that's the first thing to be done. I have an issue to add, for example, prompt templating on AI agents. If we keep building on top of AI agents, it's a lot more likely that we can make AI agents become the de facto infrastructure for later, instead of going in two different routes and then trying to merge them later, right? We are happy to onboard anyone who wants to work on this. We are more than happy to do this. There are a lot to be done, of course. This is still at almost a POC level either way, so there's no point in really having two POCs going on if we can like really focus on something. And it's always my dream that we always work on thinking every feature that we build is customer facing. It's never really something that we build only for ourselves, but something that can provide value. And then GitLab is the first customer of these features, if you will. And AI agents, we're trying to push that way. Model registry, we're trying to push that way as well.
Absolutely.
And this is a good way to achieve that, I think. It's my goal.
Eduardo, I wonder if you could link those to that work that's happened to the Epic, and maybe just add that comment.
Marshall linked the
thank you.
the merge
Okay.
request with the
Thank you.
editor with the current state.
Sheko, I think you were the next hand up.
Yeah, I know. Conscious of time here. I know that everyone has to go. But I mean, Eduardo and Marshall, could you just drop in some demos that you have of AI agents so that everyone's familiar with what's been delivered so far? And then, it'll be great to see like a feature set of what's there in the roadmap as well, so that we can, plan accordingly, right? We can say, hey, we'll just use this at this point in time or whatever. And so, I think those two things will just help. And then, yeah, of course, we'll contribute as we start developing the custom model feature. That makes sense to me.
Great point. We're on time. Does anyone have a closing comment? I think, Susie, do you have a closing comment, or we're good? Okay. Thanks, everyone. I'll upload this video, but also let's add some comments to the Epic and see where we can take this. Go ahead, Eduardo.
And we have a lunch about this at Summit at some point, I think, exactly about this. I think it's on Tuesday before the data science stage meetup, so we might see it.
Sounds great. I mean, I think the key message is roadmap across all these different groups, because we don't really have that at the moment. But yeah. Great. Thanks a lot, everyone.
Bye.
Take care.